So, my friends, you've come to join us again. Thank you. Thank you. And if you're new, welcome. I know we've had quite a few new people coming by and checking out the channel after my last video. The one true king did a reaction to my video last week, and it was very cool. It's very cool. But today we have things to discuss, things of mass importance. Square Enix. Massive changes within their organization, as well as their games. Diablo IV. Many announcements from them. Sons of the Forest, I no longer will accidentally eat legs. And there's probably a few other things we'll discuss as well. So, my friends, grab a seat. Grab your mead. And enjoy the show. I gotta remember where the button is.
For like 5 seconds there, I thought you were gonna
Oh,
say
no,
meat.
it's all busted. I can't use any of that stuff. I just have to... Well, no, it was really good at first. It was good at first, and then I just kind of fell off the rails, but...
Yeah.
That's every week.
Yeah, for like a split second there, I was like, hey, he's gonna say meat. Grab your meat. And I was like, no, he's not. And he said mead. So I was like, okay, cool.
I mean, you could.
I mean, yeah, if you're into that.
And I wouldn't blame you. So, Mark.
Yes, sir.
I have not really played very many games this week. I'm not gonna lie.
No.
I wish that I did, but I have not. Welcome, by the way, everyone. If this is your first time, this is the Just Gaming podcast on Legendary Drops, where myself, Ian, and
Mark. Yeah.
And Mark like to discuss games and everything that's going on in the gaming news and gaming culture and all kinds of different stuff. If this is your first time dropping by, thanks for stopping by and welcome. I see that we already have Gaming Fire in chat, and we have Punk Rock for Dads.
Nice.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. Welcome.
I was talking to somebody, speaking of music, I was talking to somebody Friday at work. No, it was Saturday when I had to go in for overtime that I don't get paid for. Yeah, I was like, I've really fallen out of deathcore, and I think metalcore has kind of hit that nice spot for me of still sing-songy choruses and juiciness in the breakdowns. So
I was never a metalcore, or sorry, not never metalcore. I was never like a deathcore fan. Metalcore, obviously. Like, I mean, I played in a metalcore band for like 6 years, so I mean, kind of goes with the territory that you like the music, right? What's up, Boba Fett? Welcome to the show. So yeah, I got a lot of nice, kind comments from people on the last video. They were checking out the guitars in the background. That, and like every single person wants my Chainsaw Man shirt. They're like, there's probably at least 8 or 9 comments on my last video of like, where did you get that? Where did you get that? And I'm like, I don't know how to break it to you guys, but I have a online shopping addiction. And I don't even know where half of this stuff even comes from. It just shows up in the mail one day, and I'm like, oh, there's that. I was like, this is cool. I'm happy I got it.
Yeah, speaking of Chainsaw Man, I was when I was looking at some articles this morning, I saw like, oh, Chainsaw Man's coming to PC, and I was like, well, that's awesome. I didn't even know there was a game out, right? And then I get to reading the article of like when it's going to come out. It's a flipping mobile game. I'm like, man, you got me. I clicked. You got me.
I've got 3 Ibanez's actually. Well, actually, no. 4. Actually, they're all Ibanez now that I think about it. For a second there, I was like, wait a minute. Do I think? No, I have 4. I have 4. I have the 2 RG series, the Red Burst and the Black, and then the Acoustics also an Ibanez, and then I have the Destroyer as well. That one's an Ibanez. That one I have to get restored though. I haven't got that one restored. I have to take it somewhere and actually have them work on it and whatnot. I bought that Destroyer for $80 from a dude on a job once. And he was like, because he had bought all the, like, when you do like traveling construction work, a lot of these guys will just like, they'll get on a job, they'll be there for like, 6 months or something like that. And they will just buy a ton of stuff that they can't take home and show their wife. So, so what they do is the end of the job comes and they're like, it all must go. So like if you live in a town that has like a refinery or like major like industrial areas or something like that, you know, wait at like end of fall and early summer and end of spring, because those are usually when those large projects end. And like you'll see, like look at Craigslist and Facebook and all that stuff, and like there'll just be a ton of like really really high end stuff for super cheap.
Yeah,
bought a TV like that once, $1,200 TV for like $300.
In Odessa, a lot, because people move in for like 6 months and then they don't want to take any of that furniture and electronics back with them.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I mean, I've done the same thing though, because like when I was doing traveling work, there was so many times where I'm just like, this has to go. There was like gaming desks and stuff that I got rid of over time because I'm like, I just can't take it to the next place. You don't know if you're gonna how much space you're gonna have, and then at the next job you're gonna be at.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
This is a little bit different because now here I am, and I've been out here on this job for 2 years. So I'm collecting things again, and I actually have stuff. It's not just me and a gaming PC, a TV, an Xbox, a PlayStation, and then like a bed on the floor.
He's like, he's got a bed frame.
This looks like a human dwelling. It looks like an actual person might live here. A weeb, but still a person. So I see people are starting to file in. So let's hop into some of the hot subjects, man. There's been a lot of stuff that's actually gone on this week.
Yeah, I downloaded and tried out Wulong, on PC, and I got it through Game Pass. And so I thought it was really weird that the control scheme set up for it was for the PlayStation controller, which I thought was like super weird. And so that the first thing that set off for me was a huge red flag that this was going to be a really bad port. And it's a really bad port on PC. It's not great. It's not great. I'm a big fan of Neo. You're a big fan of Neo. We both played that game together. And this is kind of disappointing. It's kind of a disappointing outing, I think, for this game in general.
I hate to be that guy, but when it comes to PC, like, and this is the forewarning to anybody that has a PC, or that maybe you're not. Maybe some of the people that are in chat right now are not PC players; they're probably console players. But one of the downsides to playing on PC is that anything that was made for console usually comes to us in like battered state. It's not in good shape. Mostly, it's cut costs. They usually will they'll get another company to step in to actually make the port for them, and then the quality testing is basically not even there. So that's what we kind of run into. Certain companies are actually really good with it. Blizzard's probably one of the best examples of having games that no matter what they're coming out on, they play well on, right? Like you think back, like Diablo 3 when they released it on console and PC, it played like perfect, right?
Yep. Overwatch, I think could run on a damn Nokia phone. To be honest with you.
Yeah. The same thing goes. Diablo 2 Resurrected really well all the way across the board on everything it played on. So it means a lot when companies can actually pull that off. But for the most part, I hate to say it, especially when it comes to Japanese developers, they do not take the time to make sure that games play well on PC when they port it, and it turns into a mess. Neo is a good example of that as well. When that game first came out onto PC, it played like absolute trash. Frame rates dipping all over the place. It made it almost unplayable. Elden Ring, when Elden Ring was first released, it played terribly on PC for like the first week.
Yeah,
for the first week. But here's the thing, like, you know, and actually in my next video that drops next week, this is one of the discussions that I have where like it's 2023. It's inexcusable. I'm sorry. You're asking for $60 to $70 from me for a game. It needs to play how it should the minute I boot it up onto my fucking computer.
Yeah, and I think like some of the red flags for it, like with Elden Ring's the same way. But Elden Ring, I understand more so because of the iframe mechanics that they use, that it's locked at 60. I get that, right? But Neo isn't locked at 60, and this game right here, I guess the highest you can take it to is 120. But then you when you go to it's so weird. and then you go to which I imagine that's probably for the performance modes on the consoles, maybe.
But the majority of
I know.
monitors go to 144. So that's odd. Yeah. That's odd. For you guys in chat, do you guys have any games that were kind of a head scratcher that you thought were supposed to be really good and that performed like absolute trash the minute you put them on your console or on your PC? I'm curious to know. So let's dude, we have a deep beefy steak when it comes to this this Final Fantasy and Square Enix stuff. There's a lot that went on. They were like, hey, they're like, so guys, this week we're gonna drop like every bit of news we could possibly drop in 1 week. Like, there's been so much going on with Square Enix this week, it's freaking crazy.
It is crazy. It is a lot of hotness. I mean, you've got studio closure, you've got a CEO possible change. You've got news about highly anticipated game, and then you've got news about that anticipated game's possible PC future. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. There's a lot of stuff.
So what do you? Let's start with the CEO change, because I feel like that's probably the fastest one we can get through, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. It's the one I least care about.
So it's the one you least care about.
Yeah, it's the one I least care about.
Understandable. So if you guys have not heard, I'm sure you guys have by now, but Matsuda, the CEO for Square Enix, has stepped down, saying big changes amongst gaming for these guys, which is pretty which is kind of true across the board, obviously, when we also bring into perspective the folding in of Luminous Studios. But the funny thing is that there's a lot of people who are like, oh my god, the new CEO is going to be worse than the CEO. Come to find out, Kiryu, the guy that's going to be swapping in from him, he's already been he's already been working for Square Enix for a while now, for the last, I think, year or so. And he was actually the major proponent that first came in and was like, we need to do NFTs. It wasn't Matsuda. It was that guy.
Yeah, that guy's going to be in charge.
Not that guy's going to be in charge. You want to talk about huffing some serious copium? These NFT guys just crack me up.
Oh man, I'm telling you, they won't let it go. They think it's gonna catch on. It's gonna come back and it's gonna catch on. They just think it is.
Diamond hands, guys. Just gotta hold out. That's all it is. I know most NFTs currently are absolutely worth nothing at all, but they're coming back. Okay?
They're coming back, baby.
And you're gonna be sorry that you didn't invest when you had the chance. Okay. You're gonna be sorry.
You know what? In a business sense, I get it, because of you. I mean, when you have like something like a video game, especially something that's like a major franchise, right? That's, multiple titles. You've got so much content to want to farm out. I get it. I get where they see what they could do, but they're not really reading the room that well. You know what I mean? Like, gamers don't want that. They don't want it. They don't even want microtransactions. So.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is obviously like a future video idea as well that I have, where it's kind of talking about how like pay to earn and NFTs were just kind of doomed from the start, especially when we're talking about gaming, right? Because, Square Enix saw the potential and the possibilities for people to want to play pay to earn games or have NFTs within games and stuff like that. And, in some ways, the technology, and I'm not talking about like placing actual value on digital items, I'm talking about just the value of the technology itself. There is actually something to be said there. Like being able to have
for the security part of it, yeah.
The security part, but then also the idea of being able to have unique items just to you. That's a really interesting thing to explore. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about like powerful items. I'm talking about like cosmetic stuff. Especially if you were able to like... So I'll put this in the perspective of Final Fantasy, okay? Especially with their common theme throughout every Final Fantasy game is that you are the warrior of light. Through every single one of them, you are the warrior of light. And in some way, shape, or form, even though the characters of those games have their identity, you're the one that's playing through that character. Now, if you could make it where your character was the playable character through all of your Final Fantasy journeys, that would be a really interesting way to go. Whether it would actually work, I have no idea. But
you wouldn't need an NFT to do that. All you would need is a cloud save.
It's just the technology behind it. It's just the uniqueness of the character that you have. It's not there's more to it than that. I've done my deep dives on NFTs and crypto and stuff in the past. I was interested when the technology was first introduced. It's all, for the most part, horseshit. So I'm sorry if you're a viewer of ours and you're a believer of that it's the new economy, because it's sadly not. But I'm sorry, but anything the government can't regulate is definitely not the future. If they can't get their hands on it, it ain't happening. Sorry, cuh. So, but there's still things to be said about the unique nature of like NFTs and stuff like that, where there's parts in the technology that would be really cool to see applied within gaming. Not as NFTs, obviously, but as something completely different. So I don't know if that's where Square Enix is seeing it, or maybe they're seeing it in just the, hey, we're going to make easy money off of these, idiots.
Yeah, no, that's 100% what they're looking at. They're looking at it as a mobile market, honestly. I'm not saying NFTs in the mobile market, which they would be there too, but they're looking at it, I think, at the same.
Yeah, see, Punk Rock Dads gets exactly what I'm talking about. It's the uniqueness of skin. So we saw this with Dr. Disrespect's game, Midnight Society, right? Or, that's not called Midnight Society. What is it called? Dead Drop? Yeah. Dead Drop. Yeah. In Dead Drop, when you sign up for it, you buy an NFT. That NFT that you buy is a unique character skin that only you have and nobody else has. That is your player identity. That is where the inherent value of being able to create that kind of stuff is. I understand you say that there's cloud saves, but the thing is that because there's like a unique character key to that NFT, that's what develops its uniqueness. And you're the only one that has access to it. Nobody else can have it unless you give it up. Welcome to the show, Wooly.
And I get that. Hey, what's up, Wooly? And I get that. The problem that I have with it is, let's look at what's that last game that just shut down. When that game shuts down, that NFT is useless. It's gone. It's worked.
Okay.
Once the servers are done, you know what I'm saying? So
no, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Okay. The point is, you will still always. So that's the idea that I was trying to give, right? Is that like you would have access to a unique character that only you have access to, regardless if that game exists, because you can use that in another game, in the next game. Now, what you're talking about is a problem of live service titles. That has nothing to do with NFTs. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you're saying crossover? So crossover a character from a completely different game.
Bam. Because that's the whole idea of like metaverses and stuff like that. Like the funny thing is that like most of this stuff is all like crackpot CEOs and stuff like that are trying to come up with get rich schemes. However, like at the core, fundamentally, like there's actually some really cool things that are in that technology. I don't believe in the profiting part of the technology. I think that that's stupid as shit. There's really cool parts of the actual technology itself that could be applied in gaming that would be awesome. But the problem is that everybody's head is too far stuck up their ass. They think it's some type of like the next stock market or the next way to get rich or something like that, and they're failing to see the actual purpose or the actual value in those kind of technologies. That's just my point. Like I wouldn't invest in any of that shit because it's just not worth it. Honestly, it's really not. But there's really cool things at the root of that technology that could be potentially good.
Yeah.
It's like do you know what it is? It's like medieval torture and the future of people turning into doctors. You know what I mean? Like it started in a bad place.
Started with grave robbers with bad teeth. Okay. Yep. But look now, we can do brain surgery. So
what do you think about that?
What do you think about that? It's got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere.
No, Willie, we were talking about Square Enix. The CEO stepped down, and the guy taking his place is an even more NFT hound than he was. So it should be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah. I mean, if he's so disillusioned that he thinks that the players and the players of Final Fantasy and the players of Square Enix games are super interested in NFTs, and he comes he comes up there, and then he'll immediately see the backlash from the players and from the customers of Square Enix games. Then they'll probably have another one. I'm genuinely surprised. Oh, I guess I'm not super surprised, but kind of. Like, I would imagine that they probably would have looked at somebody that like actually knows how to probably run a gaming company like successfully. You know, like the one guy that's actually making them money right now. Yeah, like I wonder if they even had the conversation with them where they're like, "Hey, so Yoshida, you've been making us a lot of money. How can we continue to do that?" Because he has. He's done really well. I mean, the guy has already gotten into the point where like he just made Final Fantasy 16 an action title and people are really excited for it.
Yeah.
Like don't get me wrong. You have some like terminally online people on Reddit, Final Fantasy fans that are like, "I'll never play Final Fantasy 16. It's not turn-based. It's not turn-based. If it was turn-based, then I would buy it." And it's like, well, it just so happens that like I bring this up in my video that's dropping next week. Games aren't made for you anymore. They're made for Zoomers and people younger than that who don't care about turn-based games. They just don't play them. And the ones that they do play,
the older I get, the more I want to play turn-based games.
and the crazy thing is that those younger audiences, the games that they do play that are turn-based have an auto button. Isn't that entertaining gameplay? Just not to play it, just turn it on and walk away. What is the point, man? I just don't get it. But anyway, so you know the thing is that like I've gone through this. Matsuda's actually done a lot of really good things for Square Enix. He's worked for them for quite a long time. There's been some really highs and there's been some really lows, some real low lows with Square Enix. But he's been through all that stuff, so it's kind of sad to see him step down. I know people had a bit of an ire for him, right, because of his NFT takes and stuff like that. But this is the same guy that brought you guys a lot of the changes with Final Fantasy XIV. This is the same guy that brought you the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? Or remake, sorry, Final Fantasy VII Remake. So it's not like Square Enix has only done bad things under this guy. There have been some really good things that they've done. But he also has allowed the company to invest a lot of money in live service titles that all failed. Yeah. All of them. They all failed. Yeah. Right.
And speaking of which, what I was saying is the people who bought Forspoken, played it, and loved it, and are championing it, those are the type of people you could trick into buying NFTs. I think, personally. That group of people, specifically.
I don't know. Okay. So I'm not gonna like, obviously we'll start talking about the Forspoken stuff and the Crystal Luminous Studios stuff. But it's one of those things where you can tell with that specific project, and we'll go and we'll switch over to this next topic because honestly there's not really a whole lot to talk about the whole Matsuda thing, because it's really just like the next guy for people to blame stuff on. That's what CEOs are for. Producers are the guys that are helping us make or giving us really good games, right? It's not CEOs. CEOs are not in charge of that stuff.
No, they're not.
You know, so
shareholders are.
Yeah, shareholders definitely aren't either. But anyway, so with the Forspoken studio, Luminous Productions will be folded into Square Enix. Give me your thoughts.
Initially, when I saw this article break, I think the first thing I thought it was oof. You know what I mean? Kind of sucks. That studio is really good at making tech demos. You know what I mean? Of utilizing an engine. They just couldn't make that engine work with actual live action game, which kind of sucks. But I mean, like, some people got let go, other people got absorbed. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I mean, like, games are a huge investment, and when a studio botches it like that, there's like accountability. Just like for your job. If you mess up at your job, more than likely you're gonna lose your job. That's just all there is to it. They can find somebody else to do it better, right?
When you lose your company millions of dollars, there's gonna be some heads that roll.
Yeah, there's gonna be some changes, and this falls into that category of it is what it is.
And I think I roll this kind of back to the Matsuda stuff because honestly, you think about it, and for Spoken to reach the point of where they were releasing it, and there was nobody that had the oversight to look at that game and go, who are we making this for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, who are we making this game for? And also, like, what about these performance issues? And how bad is this story? And how bad is this voice acting? Like all of those things, for nobody to come by and realize any of that stuff, for them to have that much oversight, and it just slips through the cracks. I'd imagine that's why a lot of these major changes are coming along for Square Enix. And the thing is that at the core, when you look at Forspoken, you can tell that there was actually a lot of really good ideas. A lot of the physics mechanics are really cool. The spell effects were really cool. Some of the art design was badass. Just the graphic design in general, there was some really cool stuff that they did. There was some really interesting stuff that they did. However, the problem is it just didn't all come together. This kind of almost reminds me of Final Fantasy XIV when it was first released, where they got this really good group of people together that had a lot of really cool ideas. However, all those really cool ideas didn't really meet together at the end.
Yeah, it's like they made a pot of chili and didn't add any salt. It just
there was nothing that brought the whole thing together, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, you could probably say it was like somebody just dashed a bunch of vinegar in there, and that was the narrative, right? If the narrative was out of that game, and the narrative was different, there's a really good chance that this game would have actually been pretty well received.
If Twitter didn't exist, okay, and let's say people didn't worship a piece of plastic, do you think this game would have done better?
Yeah. Not just the Twitter stuff, but the narrative, obviously, because the narrative in this game and the voice acting is just, whew, man. You can only hear like 2 or 3 lines, and you feel like you're watching like The Flash on CW.
Don't
you know what I mean?
Fucking talk about Barry Allen, sir. Okay. That show's only jumped the shark 4 times. Okay. It hasn't hit the 5th one yet.
An episode? So. Jumped the shark like 4 times an episode, more like it. Yeah. Well, it's not even just that. It's just like,
no.
You get what I'm talking about, right? Like, that's why I make the joke about CWs, because like they have this like super cheeseball dialogue that it's like nobody talks like this. You know what I mean? No. Like there's nothing to ground you to like, really get interested in it. I'm sure there's people that are fans of it, and I'm sorry if I just took a dunk on your favorite show, but
no, it's not. It's not my favorite show. My wife, she used to love Charmed, right, back in the day. Yeah. And she watched all of them, owned the box sets, all that shenanigans. And then when she saw that they were bringing it back, and she's like, "Oh, sweet." And I think the 2nd episode is when they started their whole
welcome back to the show, Tom.
Social justice stuff. She was like, "Yep, I'm good," and just like kiboshed it.
People have had a lot of that with a lot of different shows. Yeah. I had that with what was it, Sabrina?
Yeah, Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, I'm like, this is looking to be pretty good. And I got about 2 or 3 episodes in, and I was like, all right, well, that's enough. That is enough of this. So, continuing on with this stuff. So my opinion is that I think they took the best course of action they possibly could with Luminous Studios. You have to keep in mind that Luminous not only made Forspoken, but they also made Final Fantasy XV, which put me to the cross. I liked Final Fantasy 15. I enjoyed the experience of it. Maybe not as a Final Fantasy game, because I feel like on the quality level, it didn't really hit where it was supposed to. But I actually really enjoyed the action combat. I actually enjoyed the different things that they were doing with it. There was some really good stuff and some really bad stuff, obviously. But in the end, it wasn't like an absolute failure to me. So then they go and they give them the money and the funding, and they say, you know what, you guys didn't do too bad. We're going to give you guys another shot. Go try to make your own game. And then they go to try to make their own game, and this is what we get.
Yeah. Did you watch the Digital Foundry comparison between Forspoken and Final Fantasy 15?
Did you say what now?
The Digital Foundry comparison between Final Fantasy 15 and
No, I did not see
Forspoken.
that. No.
Yeah, so the lighting in Final Fantasy 15 is significantly better.
Yeah.
Where it casts shadows and all that stuff. And I think a lot, like, they just couldn't get, the way they made this game, it just wasn't good. I think it's probably, they took it out of the oven too early, to be honest with you. I
think so.
They need, yeah, I think they needed more time with that engine to get it to where they needed to be, and I think it was a limitation of being a console exclusive.
From what see, that's my problem though. When people keep saying that there was a limitation of being a console exclusive, that means that all they've ever had to do was just make it for one console. So if that was the case.
But they made it for console and PCs day and date.
Oh no, Square Enix isn't good at that.
Yeah,
Square Enix isn't good at that.
Yeah,
no,
it was a day and date thing. It wasn't.
I forgot about that part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a third party exclusive, and so that's and it just didn't work out for them too well.
Yeah. So, which I hope that doesn't I hope that doesn't scare off Square Enix from wanting to do day and dates with certain titles. But I understand why it would.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because this game failed pretty hard. I mean, it's kind of the laughing stock of the year, right?
Yeah, it is. This is the, well, I wouldn't say it's the Cyberpunk, but it's getting close. It was close. Not that close, but yeah, it's the butt of the joke this year.
Yeah, for sure. So no, I think this is a really good thing. And here's the thing, like I was saying before, they noticed that there's a lot of talent that was in Luminous, right?
Yeah.
And now they're just taking those guys and they're helping them to bolster other games. I would guarantee that you're going to take some of the people that were working on it and you're going to send them over to the Final Fantasy XVI team for the eventual downloadable content or expansion content that they'll add to the game. I'm sure some of those people are going to go over to Final Fantasy XIV and help them. And then other people will go to other different projects, and it makes it where you're not just cutting off a bunch of jobs. You're just repurposing people and putting them in roles where you're like, obviously you guys can't work. It's not, I shouldn't say it like this, but it's like they recognize the fact that these employees shouldn't be left to their own devices. They have to work for somebody that has better directional skills. So you cut off the leadership, you salvage what you can from it, and then you take the base workers and reinforce all of your studios that are succeeding for you. So Creative Business Unit 3, and then you also look over at the guys that are working on the Final Fantasy VII stuff. And I'm sure there's some other secret stuff they got going on as well, right? They just put out Octopath Traveler, so there's another game of those they'll probably be working on soon.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because we've had this debate a little bit before about like the old blood moving out and new blood coming in. They don't know how to work on certain engines, right? And this is a very, like, most of the studio was dedicated to that Luminous engine.
Yeah.
Right? And so I don't know how that's going to translate going to somewhere else. I mean, I guess it would. I mean, coding's coding, but it would still be like, if they're an expert at that, how well are they going to be at something else? And then you go into the thought process of, do you want all of your games to be made in Unreal? I don't. I mean, I know it's a good engine, but I don't want every game made in Unreal Engine. You know what I mean? Because it'll all start to feel the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We'll kind of see where they end up going with that. Personally, right now, I think that what Square Enix is doing with their studios is perfectly fine. They're taking probably one of the more successful routes in, like, say, Blizzard.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
I swear to God, Mark, I'm going to strangle you. If somebody says something in chat, you want to talk to them, say it to the damn camera.
Well, I'm thinking of, here's the thing.
I don't need your boomer ass freaking two finger typing to people in chat.
I'm having to go around my keyboard, around the mic. So
exactly.
Like,
exactly.
I have to see it.
Like it
yeah, Bobo, we are both ready for the beta, man. We are super ready for it.
Do you guys see what I have to deal with? Jesus.
Don't laugh, Tom. Don't laugh at all, Tom.
Yeah.
It's not even funny.
Laugh.
It's not even funny.
Anyway, I think what they're doing is great. I think that this is the exact kind of thing that we want to see. We'd rather see them do this than sell off the entire unit, right?
Yeah.
Which is something that we've seen them personally actually do in the past, and we've seen other studios do it as well. This is a great thing to see. Honestly, I'm happy that you're seeing them keep their employees.
Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't bad news. This is good news. This is somebody that realized the studio just didn't have it in itself to be able to manage itself. However, it still had good tools. We're just going to repurpose those tools, even though they've lost us a lot of money.
If only Microsoft would do that to 343.
If only Microsoft would do that to 343. That is exactly what needs to happen with that studio. They need to nuke it and then take the pieces of it that they know they can salvage and they can use somewhere else, and then
rebuild from the ashes.
And rebuild from the ashes. You don't need to make another studio, Xbox. You don't need to make another studio. You just take those guys, you send some of them over to Bethesda, maybe Activision when they roll through. People like that, repurpose them, and then just hand off the Halo franchise to somebody that has a little bit better know-how. Maybe that's some new direction. Somebody that can actually like figure out some completely different way to go about it. Actually, you know what? I was thinking about this the other day. For Halo, you know what they should do? When 343 took over, they should have just stopped with Master Chief and instead changed the perspective to the Arbiter. Where you start as the Arbiter. Rather than, so then that way, like you're playing like a completely different story as a completely different hero, so you can tell a completely different narrative. Rather than bastardize the narrative of the Master Chief.
Yeah, I mean they tried that somewhat with, but it was still tied to the Master Chief. They tried that in 5 with, I hated the character so much I can't even remember his name. But you played as him for the most of the game.
Yeah.
Anywho, I want to answer Wooly. So that's one of the topics we're going to talk about, the Final Fantasy PC. Because initially when Yoshida was asked about it, he acted like it didn't even exist, which really pissed me off more than anything. This is a
all right. We're shooting over to Final Fantasy 16. Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Me and Ian had like talked about, like it irritated me that because it was a console exclusive, and I get the marketing part of it of saying, yeah, it's just on PS5 to try to sell more PS5s. I get it, but to act like it just didn't exist at all was just absurd. But they've done another interview with him, and he confirms that there's going to be a PC outing for the game, but it's not going to be like a direct port. So he says it's going to need more than 6 months. So a lot of people think because Final Fantasy 16 is a 6-month exclusive deal, it's going to take longer than 6 months to get the PC optimized the way he wants it. So I will wait. I appreciate it.
Tom's got it figured out, by the way. He says he can see why I'm vertically positioned on the screen today so that I can assert my dominance.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you ever make me mad, I just hop on top.
That's kind of weird. And I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest with you.
Oh, I'm sorry. 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 Anyway. All right. Anyway. So,
just mount up, I guess.
So, I'll teach you a lesson. Anyway, so here's the deal. The Final Fantasy 16 stuff is looking really, really good. The Skill Up interview with Naoki Yoshida is probably some of the best game journalism I have seen in a long time. If you guys have not watched Skill Up's video where he talks about his time with Final Fantasy 16 and also his interviews that he got to have with the people from the Creative Business Unit 3 that are working on 16, it's so good. It's so good. I would go watch that video after you're done watching us. And then come back and watch.
Go now.
Come back and watch more. Oh man, there's so much to cover here because there's so much news and so many different things that they came out with. So far as just like capping off what you were discussing with, it's not. I get it, dude. Initially, when he was asked about it, you're making the game for PlayStation. It's an exclusive for PlayStation first. You need to make it seem like it's an exclusive for PlayStation. The reason why Sony has paid X amount of big old buck dollars over to Square Enix is because they want Final Fantasy 16 to sell games. And this game will sell games. And actually, I'm going to get to a comment eventually here in a minute that Apex had posted in chat. But I kind of want to wrap this part of it up really quick. But like, you have to understand Yoshida's position, right? The company's already paid for exclusivity. You can't be like, yeah, guys, it's coming to Xbox. It's going to come to Nintendo. It's going to be on mobile. It's going to be on PC. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that. You would look like you'd look like an ass to your company and also the people that are paying you for those exclusive rights. And I'm sure that there's probably something contractually that they have to abide by when they're actually having these interviews and people ask them about whether or not it's coming to other consoles in the future.
So when they announced Final Fantasy 16, it said PS5 and PC originally, and that's why I think what made me
show me the
irritated. Proof. They've taken it down, and you know it. I don't even want to hear that shit. You know it.
Never happened. Conspiracy theory.
Whatever.
Conspiracy theory. So no, I get that, but like, how do you want them to respond to that? What do you think is what do you think is the best response?
I understand the marketing part of it. I get that part of it. You know what I mean? But if they just would have said it's going to be a year, and it's going to be a year until they can have a PC outing for it, is a lot more tolerable than going, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a robot PS5. You know what I mean? So
yep.
I get it. I get the marketing part of it. He's probably contractually obligated to say that at that time. Or he didn't know exactly what he could say at that time, so he's probably playing it safe, I think. But still, I mean, I think it's silly.
I mean, so like, that's what I'm asking. Like, what would you want him to say? Would you like, yes, it actually is coming out on PC, but contractually, I'm not allowed to tell you that?
No, he could have just said, yeah, there's a future PC outing. That's it.
No, he's not allowed to say that.
You don't know that. Show me the proof. Just
exactly.
We
don't know. We don't know. So we can't conjecture is what this is. This is just bullshit. All right. So I'm gonna get to something really quick that Apex has said in the chat. All right. Apex says, I think Final Fantasy 16 will be commercially successful, but sales wise, it's not going to do well because it's on one platform, and the FF fans are fed up with the direction of the franchise. You know what? This is a reason on. This is a reason why I like that Apex comes by, because they always have some like adjacent position to like where I usually would go or what I would usually say. Because Apex, I don't know if you watched my videos that I put out on Final Fantasy 16. I do have 2 of them, by the way, for anybody that's watching. You guys can go watch those. I have 2 videos on Final Fantasy 16. One where I just talk about the team, Creative Business Unit 3, what we can kind of expect from them and what the game is shaping up to look like. And then I actually have another that discusses that very thing that you just brought up. I think that Final Fantasy 16 is going to be a commercial success, and it doesn't really matter what the Final Fantasy fans think. And this is somebody that is a Final Fantasy fan. This is somebody that played Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I didn't play 11. I played 12, 13, 14, 15, and now I'll play 16. So I have played a ton of them. I played a ton of them, okay? However, the core Final Fantasy fandom that have been like, we'll say lovers of the game from like, we'll say like 1 through 7 or 1 through 8, they're not the target audience anymore. They're old. We're old, man. In comparison to the normal people that they want to buy games, the kids that are going to be asking their parents to buy them a game. Now, mind you, Final Fantasy 16 is more mature focused. However, that's how Western games are. And that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to emulate that a little bit. Whether or not it's going to have the massive success within the Final Fantasy fandom, I think is kind of a null point, honestly. Yeah, I think here's the thing. If this has commercial success, that's exactly what Square Enix wants. They want Final Fantasy to be the game that everybody's talking about like it used to be. They don't want Final Fantasy to be this thing where it's like, oh yeah, did you play that? No, like, I mean, who bought Final Fantasy 15? Who bought Final Fantasy 13? 13's sales were horrible. Good Lord. 12 is like one of the best Final Fantasy games, also sold terribly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
they don't want to be niche.
I can halfway agree with Apex. It isn't going to be as okay, so had it been like on all consoles and stuff at the same date, yes, obviously it would have sold more. That's just how it goes. But when you buy exclusivity, I'm thinking they're probably at best, I think the success will probably be 10 to 12 million copies, honestly, for console, for an exclusive. So they'll count that as an excess. Could it make more money? Yes, it could make more money. But Sony's also banking on console sales from the game as well, not just the game sales itself.
Yeah,
and then on top of that, then you have the mind rent that they get off of you thinking that Final Fantasy is a PlayStation a PlayStation game, and just in general. So whenever you hear Final Fantasy, you're going to automatically associate it with PlayStation.
And do you know what? Here's the thing: it's the smartest thing Sony could possibly do.
Yeah,
it's just incredibly smart. Because here's the thing: they've already lost Elder Scrolls. They've already lost Starfield and all the things that Bethesda and Obsidian are going to be coming out with, Fallout, all that stuff. They've lost all that. It's gone. So they have to do something to be able to get one of those hallmark, one of those massive titles, one of those franchises that have been ingrained into the minds and the hearts of players around the world. They have to have one of those on their console as well that they say, hey, this is ours.
And Sony's marketing has always been better than most other people's. Because they'll as soon as the game's announced, they'll run an ad on YouTube of showing it, PlayStation 5, blah blah blah. Automatically, you think, oh, it's a PlayStation game, not like, oh, it's a video game coming out. You think it is specifically a PlayStation game.
Yeah. And here's the thing: the game when it comes out on Steam is going to crush too, right? And also on top of that, keep in mind, guys, this is something a lot of people really haven't been paying attention to, because I think we were only paying attention to like console sales numbers back when there was the drought of consoles, right? Where we couldn't get Xbox Series X and we couldn't get PlayStation 5s. But currently, right now, PlayStation 5s are selling like crazy. They are crushing Xbox in every way, shape, and form currently. Obviously, I would imagine that the current sales numbers are a little skewed because the Xbox Series S did sell really well at the beginning of its run, but currently right now PlayStation 5s are selling like hotcakes.
They are
because they're available, right?
Yep.
And they've been available for quite a while. And now everybody can get one. Everybody's getting one. We're not gonna have the fight of like which one's the more superior console. It's not about that. It's just that the PlayStations are selling really well. More households are getting PlayStation 5s, which leads me to believe that Final Fantasy 16 is probably going to sell pretty damn well. I mean, if you guys have watched any of the gameplay or any of the trailers, like the game is shaping up to be really good looking.
Yeah.
Everybody
Apex,
that had... Oh, go ahead.
And Apex, we talked about that too. We talked about it. It does. So what happens is you run into... This is just human nature. You run into what have you done for me lately? Okay? So let's say with... Bungie, okay? When Destiny 2 came out, it wasn't great. It just wasn't a great game. But they've added on to it, and got a little bit better. They've made some back steps and then back and forward, so everyone thinks Destiny 2 is great now. Final Fantasy, their last real shitter was Forspoken, right? And then they had the misstep with the Marvel Alliance. And so it's a what have you done for me lately? So this is where Final Fantasy 16 can step in and change that perception. Like people forget the past real quick when you hand them something good. They just do. Wooly, I think last estimate I heard was somewhere around the 45 million.
For what now?
The PlayStation 5s out in the wild, like people purchased. I think it actually might be higher than that. I think it actually in the 50s.
They're popping off. And again to respond to Apex here, where he says, yeah, but in the public eye, Square Enix is in a position where they need to find a way to make the most money. But here's the thing: nobody else is willing to pay them.
Yeah,
and nobody else. Nobody. This is the problem is that you have that. So Final Fantasy 16 is very much a game that is made because they are trying to capture the American audience.
Yep.
The North American audience. They want it. They want Canada and they want the US. That's what they want because this is the biggest. Everybody knows this. The US, its economy is like 80 or 90% consumers. That's all it is. It's just consumption. We just consume here. We're freaking leeches, okay?
That's why we're fat.
You want to sell stuff to us. That's why they're trying to push this. But Xbox doesn't look at Japanese games and say we want that on Game Pass or we want that as an exclusive. They just don't do it. So if they're not going to do it, and then you have your neighbor right next to you, Sony, who's like, hey, we're going to pay you, X amount of millions of dollars to guarantee that we have 6 months to a year's exclusive of this game, you'd be dumb not to take it, because you already know how well projected you're going to see that the game's going to end up making on that console, right?
And 6 months is the perfect amount of time, because that's about when games start to lose their value anyway, because it's the FOMO rush of buying it and getting it. 6 months is about that time where they're like, well, we could probably put it on sale for $20 off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's like the layers go deep, but also at the same time, like I reject the idea that Square Enix is not doing well. Their last earnings report that they had just done recently was good. Like Final Fantasy XIV's making them a boatload of cash. The Final Fantasy VII remake made them a boatload of cash. The Saga stuff that they had, I forgot what the last Saga game they came out with. That one did really well.
Like I said, it's perception. It's because Marvel Alliance and Forspoken. And that's what's last.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like there's 2 games, and then also that Babylon's Fall or something like that. There's another one that they had that did really, really poorly. Like they had a couple of games that didn't do very well. Yes. However, for the majority of the rest of their economy or their ecosystem of games that they actually have been performing just as well as just about any company that's out there. You know what I mean? If we were going to say that, we'd say the same thing about World of Warcraft. They're about to go out of business, or not World of Warcraft, Blizzard's about to go out of business, right? Warcraft 3, the Warcraft 3 Reforged was absolutely terrible. The Diablo 2 Resurrected sold, but it didn't sell great. What else?
Shadowlands.
But you have what is it?
Dragonflight.
Dragonflight sold well, but it didn't sell well as the last couple of expansions did. But they're not in any financial trouble. You know what I mean? Obviously, they have. They did have one complete flop, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. It's just the perspective of the Western audience when we're looking at some of these how some of these companies are performing. Square Enix is in the green, so they don't really have and on top of that, we're already seeing them take action to make sure that they can fortify themselves to go and do better in the future.
Was it FromSoft or was it Square Enix that took Sony on as a shareholder?
Square.
I think it was Square,
both actually. Yeah. Both have actually done that. Yeah. So let's see here. So how about our thoughts about Final Fantasy 16 and the content we've seen from it so far? I'm not gonna lie. I'm stoked. I'm stoked.
Well, it's hard. Like I said, I'm not gonna spend $500 to play the game. I'm just not. You know what I mean? So I've got to wait. So I am keeping it tempered. You know what I mean? Down. I mean, I'm glad that I'll more than likely get a definitive edition with all the DLC and all that good stuff for the same price. But like I said, it's hard for me to get overly hyped for a game. It looks really fun. But just get overly hyped for a game that I can't play. Or actually, I could play. I just refuse to pay $500 to do so.
There's other things that you could play. There's other games that you could play on PlayStation 5 if you got one. Don't act like you would get it and just never play any other game.
I've already got 3 monitors on my desk.
And one could be plugged into a PlayStation 5. Come on, man. Let's make this a PlayStation 5 podcast. Come on.
I'm just saying. I've got my curved monitor set vertical, and it's the same size of a PS5. I just don't have room for it. They came out with the PS5 Slim.
So dramatic.
I'm just saying.
So dramatic. But anyway, so the game looks well, I like how you just end the conversation. You're like, yep, it looks good, but I'm not going to get it. So that's the end of the conversation.
I didn't end the conversation. I just told you my thoughts on it.
You ended it.
Okay.
Piece of shit. No, so from what I'm seeing from Final Fantasy 16 so far, it's looking good, dude.
It does look really good.
It's looking good.
So have they confirmed or not confirmed? Are you just playing as one character and not the rest of your squad?
There is no rest of the squad.
Okay.
So that is definitely one of the things that is a blow to the Final Fantasy fans, is that we have this we have this whole thing where we have our buddy Sid that's running around with us, which is really, really cool. Yeah, we have. We have these. You do have companions. You have a dog. The dog you actually do have control of. Apparently, you'll be able to do things on the D-pad with the dog.
Okay.
No, what?
No, just sorry. I read the.
Oh. So there's stuff that you can do with the dog, which is really cool. So you get your doggy pal. And then you also have Sid, who's like your buddy on the side, right? So he's also helping you out in combat. But honestly, the most promising thing is that every single person that has had the chance to review and play the game so far, and play the teaser and the tester or whatever, is they've all said that the story, for the small portion that they got to play, was gripping and very well told. The music is absolutely fantastic, and graphically the game is just a marvel. And not a single person had anything bad to say about the combat.
Yeah, that's what I'm more interested. Like, I'm most anticipating is the combat looks really fun to play.
And I'm pretty sure I think they said there was over 100 hours of seamlessly put in cutscenes.
Really?
Yeah.
This isn't going to be like an episodic, like a 7, right? This is
I think it might be a little. Maybe it's a little bit. Maybe it's actually less than that. I can't remember the exact amount of time. I might have just made that part up. There was a part where they specifically discussed how many. I was like, after I said 100, I was like, man,
that's bold. That's bold.
Like, man, that's a lot of movies, dog. It's like that's a whole TV series they're pumping into this thing. But yeah, there's a lot of cutscenes and but they're all seamlessly put in. And the funny thing is that there's been a lot of people that have popped up that are like, oh man, but I missed those awesome Final Fantasy cutscenes. And it's like, but you guys don't realize that in today's graphics, if you're looking at the same thing that I'm looking at on the screen, this is what Final Fantasy cutscenes used to look like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is what they used to look like. We've reached the point of graphic fidelity in which this old CG cutscenes that we used to see are basically just the graphics that we're getting in games. We're seeing that with Unreal, the new Unreal Engine, right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of trailers are running in-game engine versus an actual CG cutscene as well too. So it's going to look a lot like it's supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Wooly makes a pretty good point. It says also after 6 months, Final Fantasy 16 will be on Xbone. In 6 months or so, it'll be on PC, ensuring a long tail and constant peaks of media coverage.
11 hours of cutscenes. See, I just added one. I just added a zero at the end of it.
Just a couple.
Hey, but dude, 11 hours of cutscenes is pretty freaking wild.
It is pretty wild.
And here's the thing: at the end of the day, like, I understand where people are coming from. We're talking about the combat, and we're more or less it's just the combat is what people are really concerned about. That we're not getting the standard turn-based combat, the party system, and all of that stuff. I completely understand, but at the same time, you have to also realize as a Final Fantasy fan, why do you actually play Final Fantasy? It isn't for the combat. It's for the story.
Yeah, generally, yes.
And this is looking to be one of the best Final Fantasy stories that they've ever told.
She looks really cool.
She does look really cool.
She looks really cool.
Yeah. This is looking like one of the, and here's the thing.
And that's why I've stayed away from this game so much, is because I don't like I want to play it, you know what I mean? And I don't want to get to like, oh my god, now it's gonna make that year-long wait so terrible. It's gonna be
It is. Well, especially
then,
when I'm playing it and then I'm telling you about it.
Hey, you're like, hey, look at this, and you start streaming. I'm like, gosh, shut up.
Yeah. I'm gonna be texting you and stuff and taking screenshots of like spoiler stuff to ruin the game for you. So all in all, like, everything I see from the combat, dude, it just looks so fun to play. And like, I'm a big Devil May Cry fan, so this already obviously scratches another itch for me. So for me to be able to play basically a child of my two favorite game series is kind of a trip. It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
So, you know, I mean, obviously we'll see how it plays out. Like, we'll see how much customization we actually get and things like that as well. Those are things that I'm really interested to see. Like, you know, how much can I really, like, I don't know, make Clive my own? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that's where it lacks, and it lacks there pretty hard, then, you know, then yeah, it's probably gonna lose a couple points from me. But just the cinematic value and the combat so far just looks so good and so smooth. Like, it's just even when you're watching somebody else play it from the perspective of like these people that got to test it, it's entertaining to watch, which is awesome because that makes this a very streamable game as well.
See, you're gonna
so come this June, I hope you guys know I will be streaming this live.
I've got Diablo, I guess. I can play that instead while you're playing that.
We'll get it on the cheap. Hey man, that's all right, Tom. You get it when you want to get it, boy. You get it when you want. You get it when you want to get it.
You know what? I do that. Speaking of which, matter of fact, I did it this weekend. Steam had a Ubisoft sale, and I normally don't buy Ubisoft games in general, just because on PC, because they make you connect to the Ubisoft store, and it's awful to go through their client.
Boo.
Unless you like link your Steam account. Anyway, it's a thing. But I got Assassin's Creed used to be one of my favorite franchises of all time, and then I got serious fatigue on it, like serious fatigue. Odyssey kind of broke me. I beat it and I played it, but that is a monster of a game. It's where there's just too much content. I know that sounds weird. There's just too much content for a single player game. It's not an MMO. It's not. There's no other hook for it. It's just a single player game.
Yeah.
And so I picked up Valhalla because I swore it off. I was like, nah, screw that. I can't do it again. I picked it up for $20, and I've been enjoying the crap out of it. Man, that game's really, really good.
It got reviewed pretty well, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it did. Like, it was kind of like a return to form for Assassin's Creed, right?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, and it's got a lot of the same problem that Odyssey had. Well, not so much. It's got more land than it does sea, but there's a lot to do. And like, so I'll be on my horse, and you can set your horse to just stay on the road and then follow the checkpoint that you're going to, right? And then I'll see something in the little compass, it'll light up. I'm like, well, I gotta go do that. And so it's just
okay. I mean, it got like what would you call a passing score for a video game?
Like for a good game,
yeah.
I would say a 7. A 7's a good game. Okay.
So like, I mean, like according to its meta, it was like 80. So like most critics were giving it like 7s and 8s, right? User score was 7.5.
Yeah.
So I mean, it sounds about right. It's just yeah, it's a good game. Like, it's not anything revolutionary. It's not anything that changes the whole thing, but
yeah. So I mean, it came off the back of Odyssey, which was a really good game.
Hey, your son's asking you if you want anything from Cane's.
They sell chicken.
I know. We have it here. He's asking if you want anything.
Yeah, I do.
You just want chicken. That's it.
That's all they sell is chicken. That's it. Chicken strips. That's the only thing they sell.
They sell bread. Well, don't they have? They have good iced tea, right?
Yeah.
You see how food just throws him straight off his fucking game?
I'm fat. Yeah. No. Yeah. So like, I've been playing it, and I'm actually starting to appreciate it again. With Valhalla, just the fact that while I was playing, I was climbing this mountain, just to climb it, right? Because I saw it, I said I'm going to climb it, and it reminded me why I like some of the pet peeves I had with Breath of the Wild. You know what I mean? Where the world of Breath of the Wild is so small in scope comparative to a game like this, that they have to add in a fatigue stamina thing just to prolong you being able to do stuff like that. You know what I mean? Instead of just get up there, get a good view, see what's going on. You know what I mean? So the game, it's massive. It's crazy to think that people can do that can just make a game that big. I mean, it is a huge game. 158 gig download for the base game, no DLC.
150 gig?
150 gig. 158 to be precise.
Well, do you know what? You know who does a better job at it?
Who's that?
Minecraft. If I see a mountain, I can go climb it. And guess what? Yep. Guess what the download is for Minecraft?
7 megabytes.
I don't even think it's a gig.
It's 7 megabytes.
Probably. I don't know, man. Maybe I'll put the game on my my interested list at one point. I just got really burnt out on Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I did too. I really did. I really got burned out on it. And I think it started with Black Flag, and then I played a little bit of it and I put it down and I didn't touch it again until Origins. So
what do you think about all this? What do you think about all this drama over the AI art, like the AI animation stuff? Have you seen any of this?
Yeah,
It's it's heating up. It's heating up.
It is heating up. One thing I did see about that's cool about, not to get off topic, we'll talk about it, but Skyrim mod that added AI voiceover for yourself, for your character will actually have a voice. Yeah, it's super cool.
Huh. See, there's AI technology being used for the good.
Well, except for they taught an AI how to play Doom. Yep. Which I'm like, do not teach them to kill. Do not teach them to kill. You know what I mean?
It finally becomes sentient. It's just Doom music that starts immediately. Yeah. It's like, oh no.
You're sitting at your house, you just hear you're like, oh no.
So I it's funny because like initially when I watched the video of the rock paper scissors anime, right? And I thought it was really cool, and I was like, wow, I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. And then I've watched and I've seen from a lot of different perspectives, especially artists and animators, where they're like, no, this is not good. You don't understand why it's not good. And it's not just for the fact that people are going to lose their jobs eventually because of technology, which we already kind of know that stuff's going to happen to begin with,
that's
right?
The way
like,
it's going to happen,
like everybody's known that from the get-go. You know what I mean? Like it's just it is what it is.
We're all going to live off a government stipend eventually.
One day. Probably not when we're alive, but that's okay.
No.
But what it does mean is that companies are going to start to value animators and artists less.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Well, as soon as if you can have one person run a whole department by just typing in cues into AI to get the art that they want, yeah, you don't need everybody else.
So here's the thing, and this is what I was thinking about, and I really haven't heard anybody talk about this yet. All right. So AI art specifically, whether it's animation or whether it's still art, how does AI make it?
It is pulling right now it's pulling references. The AI is not self enough aware to create its
AI is not self-aware at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have a consciousness, so it doesn't have an imagination.
Yet.
I mean, yeah, but maybe like way down into the way into the future, and when we're like not even like worth anything anymore. We're not even here, right? We're just dust. We're not even worth the parts anymore. You know what I mean? We're not even worth the parts. They can't even use us to like grow silicone or whatever. I don't know. So, but here's the thing.
Candle wax.
Without art and without new art, all art would end up looking the same after a while, especially just because that's just the way the AI works. Because what the AI really does is it usually just kind of fills in the gaps and then it just collages. That's why, like, one of the things that you'll see when you use like a lot of these AI art generations, there'll be words that'll pop up in the image somewhere, you know, in one corner or in one of the other corners. And the reason why it does that is because in a lot of images across the internet, a lot of them are stock photos, and those stock photo images have stock photo written on it. So what it's doing is when it's layering these images and it's making these collages to make you the image that you wrote in, that watermark will show up somewhere. It won't actually be legible. You can't tell what it is, but that's what it's doing. It's just layering images on top of each other until it can kind of fill in the gaps. With that logic, if you devalue art, that means that there's less art available. If there's less art available, then the aesthetic goes down, which would then actually in turn end up devaluing that version of AI technology. So like, I understand why people are upset, because you will have companies, especially looking at somebody like Netflix, that'll be like, oh, we want to make an anime? Pff, we don't even need animators. Big Booba Elf Demon Lord anime. Enter. You know what I mean? Like, no, you're gonna have that choice. They're gonna try to make it the cheapest way and the fastest way as possible, because platforms, especially like, honestly, like all of them, all the streaming platforms, they value fast-paced content that they can just keep chunking out and keep your eyes on the screen.
Yeah. So in a dystopian future where, you know, AI is taking over our jobs and robots do our jobs, whatever, you're still, the people who are going to be still useful are going to be your artists and musicians, because I don't think AI is ever going to, like, honestly get to a point where it has an imagination other than what it's.
That's full. At that point, you're at full sentience.
Yeah. So I think we're always going to have like I think that's what people do is they're going to create. That's going to be the job, is just create art, books, stories, music.
So we're all gonna become bards one day.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. I've already learned to play the lute, so.
Have you?
Yeah, it's pretty good too.
Okay, all right.
Lute. Did you hear it? Pretty good. Don't do it. Don't do it. You get that look?
Not yet. You haven't been that bad of a boy that you need to get sent to the you don't have to get sent to jail today.
So, Wooly, I'll pose a question to your statement. If Black Flag was so amazing, why can't Ubisoft get Skull and Bones running?
Woo! Shot to the heart.
And scene.
That's true, though. That is true. Did they cancel Black Flag yet?
No, they just delayed it till next year.
What about Beyond Good and Evil?
Oh my God. Roll that beautiful bean footage. All right. So, if you didn't know, Beyond Good and Evil is the longest game in development ever. And this studio is in France. France has a lot of different labor laws than America or even, some of the UK have. They're actually being investigated because they have so many people taking sick leave for extended absences and never coming back. So, including the,
Is this real life organ harvesting?
Did you rent that kidney? Repo. Yeah, so the manager director is one of those people that left. So after, 15, 16 years of just trying to hammer away at this game, people have just it's just complete burnout. So what I wanted to talk about is, do they keep forcing this to fit, or should they just abandon it altogether? You know what I mean? Like, at what point should you go, okay, this just isn't going to happen and we need to stop? To where they're being investigated and talking to the people and getting their mental and physical health checks done. The government is.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's a thing. So this, I think
this is a loaded conversation. Good lord.
Yeah, so this is gonna boil down into, and everyone hates to talk about crunch and whatever because we want the products, right? We want the goods. I don't really care how you make it, and every job has a certain level of crunch. It just does, right? But I think in a creative job, it is so hard to go and work on the same creative project for 17 years and it not be finished and still have crunch on it. You know what I mean? That's kind of backbreaking. There's no payout on it.
I guess what my question is is this just such a ambitious title that they can't let go of it because they really think it's going to be their saving grace? Because Ubisoft has been in a really tough spot for a long time, right?
Yeah.
We talked about Valhalla, but outside of that, what other good Ubisoft game has come out over the last few years? There really isn't any. None of them have really done that well. So maybe that's it. Maybe they think this is their last hurrah before they end up getting sold off, probably.
Man, it's hard to say. Scope wise, the game is ridiculous, right? Being able to fly in and out of atmosphere, stuff stays there. You know what I mean? The size and scale of things. And I'm not saying that it just can't be done. I'm pretty sure. I don't think consoles would be able to run a game like this personally, and I think you'd probably need a high-end PC to run a game like this at an acceptable level. But man, at the point to where you've got people that take extended breaks for being sick and they just don't come back.
Yeah, it's just because they don't want to work there anymore.
Yeah, dude, that's not a good sign for your project. That means that people are just not vested into it. So if the people are leaving it, there's got to be some serious issues with this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not. I don't think it's the serious issues with the game. I think it's just the serious issues with the studio.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's really what this is about. They for some odd reason, they just can't get it together on this, and I personally, this is one of those games that I don't think is ever going to get released, and if it does, it's not going to be good. I mean,
like
not
they'll release it to say that if they do, they'll release it just to say that they released it.
Yeah. And you know what this is the funny thing is, like, I'm actually looking at like some of the comments from like the trailer that I just showed off, right? There's people from 4 years ago saying, I wouldn't mind waiting another 5 years as long as it's fleshed out and completed. Take your time, folks. That's the top rated comment. I won't mind waiting another 5 years. Well, that means the game should come out next year. Yikes, dude. Just yikes.
That's a dumpster fire. But what's the most interesting about this story is this is how it starts with like loot boxes. Germany was like, you know what, we're not doing loot boxes, and it just caught on, right? Is this going to be a thing that's going to touch the rest of the industry after their findings and whatnot? You know what I mean?
But
to where
like whether or not it's a healthy workplace.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying, just in the industry in itself. You know what I mean? Wide scope.
I mean, here's the thing. I feel like the video game industry as a whole isn't regulated very well. You know what I mean? Like workers' conditions wise, I don't think it's regulated very well. I think Blizzard, a lot of the stuff that went on with Blizzard is kind of case in point with a lot of that stuff. A lot of the stuff that's still actually currently going on with Activision Blizzard is still case in point for a lot of that stuff. Where it seems like a lot of these companies are just kind of flying by the seat of their pants, and maybe it's about time that somebody steps in and really makes the workplace much safer and healthier for a lot of these people, because the work that they do is actually incredibly hard and very delicate. And if
Tom, I love you, dude. I really do. That's
working
great.
there would be like jacking a flaccid piece for years, ignoring injury and a little bad. Jesus, Tom. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know where this is gonna end up. I'm genuinely surprised that they honestly haven't been acquired yet. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, yeah. What was that?
If I had to take a wild guess, I would say that you're going to see maybe like one or two big bad failures with them, and then you're going to end up seeing an acquisition come across from Sony.
I don't think Sony could afford to buy them.
Embracer.
Yeah, there you go.
Or Tencent.
Or Tencent, yeah.
One of the two of them, yeah.
Embracer would probably be my first pick on it.
Yeah. So, just because Embracer does entertainment stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
So chances are them, because they would want to do like movie series and stuff like that, using their IPs for stuff like that, right?
Yeah, because the last Assassin's Creed movie was so good.
Dude, it was so good. So good.
I
watched it on accident over the holidays.
Was it a straight to video? I kind of feel like it was a straight to video.
I don't know. I don't know if it went to theaters or not. I don't remember it being in theaters, at least. Did you see what they did with Demon Slayer?
Mm-mm.
They like made a scrunch down version of the last season that we just had, and they put it in theaters.
Hey, dude, I bet it's gonna sell gangbusters.
I mean, no, it's like no. It's actually, it didn't really get very good reviews, because I mean, you gotta understand, like, there's not a whole lot of filler in Demon Hunter.
No,
Demon Slayer, sorry.
Especially that arc. That arc
specifically, yeah. There's not a lot of filler. So for them to squish it down to put it in a movie format, like, what did you take out? You know what I mean? So
probably all the parts of them dressing up as little girls and joining in the houses.
That wasn't filler, though. That was good. So it's just interesting to see something like that. I know it's just kind of random. What else? There was something else that I saw that came across this week that I personally am very, very excited for. Oh, the benchmark for Blue Protocol.
What?
You didn't see that? I didn't talk to you about that?
No.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So currently, right now, you can actually go and you guys can download the benchmark tool for Blue Protocol. And you can actually make your character for Blue Protocol, and you can customize your character and, like literally do your whole character creation thing and try on different outfits and different gear and stuff like that.
So you played it for about 6.5 hours?
No, I didn't download it. I didn't actually download
okay.
it. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know. Crazy for me, right? But let me see if I can find it real quick. I'll pull it up real fast. Make sure I can get it on decent viewing. And
she's just as bad as you. She's just as bad as you.
Hey man, she just has good taste. It's hard being cultured. So they put out a benchmarking tool where you guys can actually go and see how well your PC runs with Blue Protocol. It's pretty cool. And actually, by the way, scores are looking pretty solid. A lot of PCs are getting pretty high scores, depending on the equipment that they have. The full character creator's there, so you can play around and design your character and whatnot. This is great, dude. This is just great in general. Like, one, the data that the company is going to get from people all across the world doing benchmark tests is huge. Because they're going to get a lot of really, really valuable data from all the different types of hardware that people are trying to run the benchmark on. Mm-hmm. There's obviously they get some solid testing in with their character creator as well. It's all in Japanese for the most part, so keep that in mind. Except for the benchmark benchmark stuff that actually that's all in English, which is kind of odd. But
which on Steam, I don't know if you saw this, but it looks like the 3060 has moved up as the most one of the most used cards.
It did, yeah, just because of how insanely affordable it was when it came out. Yeah, it was much more affordable than any of the other cards that you could get. But overall, it's really cool. I'm happy that they're actually doing this. The other thing I'm really impressed with Blue Protocol with right now is that they're emulating. And I don't know if any of you guys have seen any stuff on the game or you guys have been following it. This is a game that's going to be very heavily followed on this channel when it gets released. I'm going to tell you that right now. They are emulating Final Fantasy XIV with their developer updates. It's the same setup. They got the 3 guys at the desk. They're live streaming it on YouTube. The only thing that they don't have is they don't have the English speaking
bald white guy. Mm-hmm. Did I earn it?
They don't have an English speaking translator that's going to be there. Once again, if this is your guys' first time, welcome to the Just Ian podcast. I do not have a co-host. It is just me now. Anyway, they don't have an English translator, which kind of sucks. However, for the most part, they do a really good job of just kind of showing off different assets. And there's actually some guys that you can find online from a couple of different channels that actually have some stuff that shows off. There's a couple different channels that are out there where people are in real time translating for you, which is where I have been getting a lot of my information. Is I've been watching some of those streams where you've had somebody actively translating for people, which is really cool. The game is shaping up really well. The reason why they had to push back their the beta, right? Because the beta was actually supposed to be this month, but the reason why they ended up having to push it back is specifically because they ended up having some type of network bug, really? Which they've been actively working on that. And of course, what ends up happening is they start working on that bug, and then another bug pops up, right?
Yeah.
And then it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going. So that's kind of been where that's been kind of caught up at the moment. Outside of that, it still looks like it's developing up really well. It's going to be coming out later this year. They haven't given us an official date yet, which sucks.
I think it's going to be like fourth quarter.
Yeah, it'll probably be towards the end of the year. I would say like fall or something like that. Here's the thing. I don't know, there's a lot of benefits to releasing an MMO in the summer because it's when everybody, people are off school,
Kids.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have a higher opportunity to have those people pick up the game and play it. However, I don't know. We'll see. Fall is also really good for that as well because more people are inside because it's starting to get colder.
How optimistic are you that it's going to be good?
Very. actually.
Very optimistic.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it is.
Very. Like, so it's not going to be a standard MMO. I think what it's going to be is, if I had to give my best guess is, and this is just from what I've seen from a lot of the beta testing and whatnot, I think it's going to be kind of like a marriage of like maybe like almost like New World meets like Genshin Impact meets I had another game off the top of my head, Fantasy Star Online 2. So it's going to have a lot of these, like, it's going to have a ton of activities for you to do, a ton of different stuff, whether it's solo or with other people. There's going to be a ton of customization options. It's going to be a very social game, but it's also going to be very casual at the same time and not competitive, right? Yeah. So the competitive nature of the game is going to be removed. From what I understand, and I could be wrong about this, I didn't really see anything about PvP. I haven't really also looked either. But that would change the whole direction of things if that was the case. If that was the case, then I don't know. I don't know what we're looking at. We're looking at something pretty crazy. But here's the thing.
Yeah, end game loop's going to be big. It's going to be important.
I would be skeptical of Blue Protocol if it wasn't for the studio that's working on it and the passion that they've shown for making the game. Because most games like this, most of these, like, we'll say like anime-esque or anime-themed MMOs that have this, just the way that this game's built, especially because it's not like, it's not Holy Trinity and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. It's usually very like casual the way that they put it together. But however, like this team has been really, really, really active with trying to talk to the community. They've been really active with making sure that they put out, some updates as soon as they possibly can. And here's the thing, for them to have literally almost started from scratch because the initial beta testers were like, no, is huge. That tells you a ton that tells you a ton about the company. It tells you a ton about the people that are making it.
Well, the fact that it's a single purchase and not a a Genshin Impact, Genshin game.
It's not a free to play. It's not a gacha game or anything like that. I'm sure like sometimes
it's going to fall down to what the in game loop is for it, how successful it's going to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, honestly. I've seen a lot of different stuff. One of the things that I thought was actually really interesting is like they have like time trial, where you can you can basically compete against yourself and other people for how fast you can clear a dungeon solo. Stuff like that. That's just random stuff. That's not like, oh, that's the core end game loop. I'm just saying like that's some of the stuff that they're including in the game, which is that's completely different than what we've seen from any other MMO. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I find it weird that the game wouldn't have PvP. You know what I mean? Like it's like screaming for it, especially with your customizing your own character and all that stuff. It kind of screams for it with the combat style and stuff.
We'll see. I personally, I'm one of those people that feel like if you can create a game that has a very balanced and a very healthy PvP, then you're gonna have a pretty successful game.
Yeah.
Because the crowd of people that really like PvP are very, very loyal to the games that they play.
Yeah, they are, and they are. Like if what's crazy is like games that I think like personally for myself, like I don't like their PvP. The people who play their PvP will stand by that. Like it is the best. Period. This is the PvP you need to be playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think World of Warcraft is a really good example of that. Like the people that play PvP in WoW, they treat it like church. Like this is what they do. They love it, and there's nothing else that they would play, and there's nothing else that compares. That's just kind of how people view it, especially in comparison to like other MMOs, right? Because like I think Final Fantasy XIV, I'll just flat out say it doesn't have good PvP. Even with Crystalline Conflict, it's a major improvement. Don't get me wrong. Crystalline Conflict is a major improvement over what they had in the past. However, most of the PvP that people are exposed to, because you don't just random queue for Crystalline Conflict using the Duty Finder, so you can't like get dailies and stuff done for it. You can only just go do like the battle pass rewards and stuff like that. People don't really interact with it as much. It still has a pretty healthy group of people that are playing it, but it's just not nearly as popular as PvP is in other games.
Yeah, well, and in all fairness, Final Fantasy XIV is more of a social game than it is
Yeah, it's a social casual game. Yeah. I recently just had a discussion with somebody in the comment section of one of our videos where they were talking about how like Final Fantasy XIV is less toxic than other MMOs, where I'm like, it's not that it's less toxic, it's just that there's less potential for toxic interactions. Yeah. And the reason why is because the game doesn't have a lot of competitive spheres. Usually a lot of your toxic interactions happen within competitive. Yeah. Well, not, yeah. I mean, you think about it, Final Fantasy has Savage, right? That's an 8-man group. Typically you're not going to have a lot of toxic interactions within an 8-man group. Go into Party Finder. You'll find plenty of toxic interactions in Party Finder. Go into Crystalline Conflict. You'll find plenty of toxic interactions in Crystalline Conflict, because those are areas where you're reaching out and you're not playing with your tight-knit group of friends or people that you've met. You're playing with all these other people that are complete strangers in a competitive environment, and that is what leads to toxic interactions. You look to a game like World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft has a ton of potential for toxic interactions because every part of the game forces people to play with random strangers in competitive situations, whether that's in Mythic Plus, whether that's in 10 to 25 man raids, whether that's in PvP, all the way across the board. So there's just more potential for toxic interactions because really it's competition which breeds the toxic interactions. It's just the nature of the beast, right? Where in Final Fantasy, you just don't have that because it's mostly a narratively driven game and it has some competitive sections, but those competitive sections are very small and they're not core to the game other than like, you know, Savage raiding. But like I said, you get into a static, that's 8 people. You guys get pretty fucking familiar with one another.
Yeah. And me and you, even when we first started playing, trying to fill out the Final Fantasy group, like when doing dungeons or whatnot, we would start, because no one knows that we're know each other or anything, so we would start fights just to see what happens.
Yeah, we would run dungeons and just like talk smack to each other in the chat and be like, "Oh my god, dude, could you do any worse? Could you freaking do more damage and stuff like that?" So yeah, but actually, do you know what? We'll cap off this last part of the podcast with some Final Fantasy XIV talk. There's a patch on Tuesday.
What's the patch for?
It's a big old juicy patch. It's going to bring us the next leg of our weapon, the Manderville weapons, as well as a new deep dungeon. Eureka Orthos, I believe. Eureka Orthos, I think that's what it's called. So apparently the new deep dungeon is going to be under the Crystal Tower, from what I understand. So that's going to be an interesting location to go and start. But this is going to be the Endwalker's new Palace of the Dead or Heaven on High. So I'm super interested in doing it. I will probably stream some of it next week for sure. I've already gotten hit up by a few people that are like, "Are you going to play it? Are you going to play it?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to freaking play it. I'll play some Final Fantasy." So I know.
Oh, yeah, twist his arm. Oh no.
I mean, largely I've taken a break from Final Fantasy once I finished the this last raid tier. I mean, that's just kind of usually what I normally do. That's the reason why I like playing the game, is because I can complete the content I want to complete and then just walk away from the game and just not think about it until there's the next major patch, and then I'll come back and play it for a little while and then take a break again, and then, you know, yada yada. And then when an expansion comes out, then I play it for like the whole year, right? So I'm definitely excited for this. I've been looking forward to the new deep dungeon. I'm not like flushed with information about it, to be honest. I haven't even seen any gameplay for it yet. But seeing as that I already enjoy the other deep dungeons, whether that's Heaven on High or Palace of the Dead, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy this one too.
I like that format more than the one with the fields where you're just running out into the, you know, just a wide open deal and just trying to kill world events and collect, so you're thinking of the like weapon power up things. You know, like how we were trying to get like our artifact weapons for before. That's not what this is. Yeah. No, I understand that. I like this format better for that. I mean, content, I should say.
Oh, okay,
I like this content better than I do like the other content.
Yeah. I feel you. So I'm definitely interested to see what this is going to be like. I'm super excited to see what the rewards are going to be, because that's the stuff that I'm the most interested in, right? I need that glam.
Yeah. Glam.
I need that glam. So I got to have that drip. So waiting on that. I'm definitely excited. I'm pumped. I'm definitely pumped. Plus, on top of that, we are getting dangerously close to the end of Endwalker already. I can't even believe it. This is
fast.
This is 6.35.
Seems fast.
6.55 is the end, and that's when they just have the lull until the next expansion. So we're close, man. We're close.
Is next expansion supposed to be the
so
new engine?
We'll say what?
Is next expansion supposed to be where they start implementing a new engine or no? Or upgraded?
That's when they're gonna the shaders. Yeah, they're gonna update their shaders and stuff. Yeah. So so we have so this is 6.35. So the next one so then we'll have the next major content patch will be 6.4, which will be another story arc as well as the next raid series. 6.45, which will be another content patch, and then 6.5 will be moving us towards the next expansion and giving us an idea of where we're going to be going.
Okay.
So I'm definitely interested.
That means I've got a lot of catching up to do then.
Yeah, I mean, I think narratively,
I'd actually like to run. I think I actually like to run those the deep dungeons with y'all.
Yeah. Just let me know. So, guys, we have ran for. I know.
Tom.
Every time he's in chat, he gets me. I do. And sometimes I can't look every time I see him type because I know it's gonna be something wild. Anyway, guys, I love you in an Ubisoft kind of way.
So he hates you. He absolutely hates you.
Oh man! All right, so guys, I have a new video dropping next week on Tuesday about AAA game studios and how they are demonic, evil corporations bent on the destruction of the world. So please make sure that you guys go and watch that. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. We actually had a pretty sick haul. At one point in time, we're up to 16 people watching us at the exact same time. That is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Most of you guys ended up sticking around for most of the show, which is super cool. If you guys are catching this on the VOD, thank you guys for watching as well. Make sure you guys are commenting down below on any other topics or anything you guys would like to hear us talk about. Thank you for all the support. I don't really deserve this award, but I'll take it anyway.
Just wait for the music to start.
Mark.
Yeah, so I'm probably after this, I'm probably gonna put a poll up because I'm curious. We were talking about it off stream the last couple of days. I'm just curious of what everybody likes to platform they like to play on. So I'd like to put a poll up and just kind of get a feel for what everybody likes to jam on, and then maybe do a poll on what type of games people like to play. So that way we can better. We like to talk about the games that we like to play or that are playing, but if there's something specific you guys are wanting to hear our thoughts on, because we play everything. We focus on RPGs majorly, but we do play everything, and I'd like to be able to give everybody a taste of something they want to hear about. So yeah, look out for those, and see if you could just go ahead and click a button and see what you got.
Yeah. So anyway, love you guys. Thank you guys for coming by. We will be back yet again next Sunday. And then we also have live show or some live game playing that we're going to be doing this coming week. We kind of fell off. There were some unfortunate circumstances over the last week, mostly with work and long naps. So we will stream next week. Probably a little bit of Sons of the Forest, probably some more Diablo IV. Yeah. I saw that we didn't really get to touch it, but I did see they made some pretty mean hot fixes already to Sons of the Forest.
Yeah, they did.
So
I saw a speedrun guy beat it in 8 minutes.
There's a hotkey as well. They made hotkeys and stuff too. So now you can actually hotkey your weapons and flip to them as you want. That's huge.
You know why? Huge. They listened to our podcast.
That's exactly what it was. They listened to our podcast. Of course they did. If anybody had even a brain cell in their head, they'd be listening to this podcast. It's nothing but accurate information and great opinions. Okay.
100 hours of cutscenes.
100 hours of cutscenes. I'd still.
I like how Apex was 11.
I'd still play it, right? So anyway, Anyway, all right. You guys have a good morning, a good night, a good afternoon, and we will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
See you.
I'll hit this end screen. Hold on. This is still very natural, guys. Very